Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to have a bit of extra fun and do a tier list ranking maybe not all, but a lot of the alien species I have encountered in literature and cinema. And as to the way I will be assessing their merits or lack thereof, I will definitely give points for the alienness factor, i.e. I tend to really enjoy alien species that aren't humanoid in design, biology, shape, what have you. Also, I will do my best to assess each alien species on its own merits, though I will sometimes be taking the quality of the work in which the alien species features into account as well. I won't always be able to completely separate the two. So we're opening this list with the Pearson's Puppeteers from Larry Niven's Ringworld. They definitely have that alien factor going. They look very freaking weird when you read the description, and then when you look up, fan art of them online, yeah, they look odd. And you have a Pearson's Puppeteer character as part of the main group of protagonists. He's considered crazy by the rest of his society because he's braver than most Pearson's Puppeteers. As prey animals, they're like pathologically afraid of everything, but this fear has in fact in their case been the main drive of their cognitive evolution, which I thought was really interesting conceptually. They are also master eugenicists. I won't say more than that. And yeah, there's an interesting twist with them in Ringworld. So taking all of that into account, yeah, the Pearson's Puppeteers are definitely going to go in A tier for me. They were just really cool and original. Yeah, very neat concept. Then we have the Scramblers from Peter Watts' Blindside, which I read last year and hated. That being said, I didn't hate, it's aliens. Scramblers aren't really individual organisms like Terran animals, they're more like organic subunits. I liken them to leukocytes, and they are weird and very creepy. The way I would describe them is mix a spine, a kind of starfish, the really spindly ones, and then a burr. You mush all that together and you get a scrambler, more or less. And the whole thing with the aliens in Blindside is that they're very cognitively advanced, but they aren't conscious or self-aware. That goes back to the book's theming, which I didn't like, so whatever. So if I average out the fact I hated Blindside and the fact I did find the Scramblers conceptually neat, they get to go into B tier. Then we have The Martians from H.G. Wells' The War of the Worlds. And honestly, I really liked it. I would really highly recommend it as an example of earlier science fiction. It surprisingly holds up really well. Yeah, they kind of describe it as these big blobby brains on tentacles. And that's linked to hyperencephalization. There's commentary around that in the book linked to some of its theming. Outside of that, there wasn't much to dig into with regards to their species building, so I was left a bit wanting as well. So based on that, I will put them in C tier. We have the Angels of Neon Genesis Evangelion. These are primeval, well no, not space jockey-like aliens. They all come from a space jockey-like Promethean alien, and they are basically aliens, though they are called angels because there's this esoteric aesthetic motif in the show. I liked them. I mean, I thought they were cool looking. I will give that to NGE. They were very neat looking. Some of them were really weird and esoteric in design, I guess, and eldritchy. Like this one is quite eldritchy. And you don't really know what's going on in the beginning of the show, right? You don't really know what the fuck the angels are. So there is a bit of a mystery factor there. Still, ultimately, I was disappointed by the explanation behind all of it. This is a bit of a middle range case, I guess, because it technically could go at the top of B or in lower A. I think for now, I will put the angels at the top of B tier Were they that much better than the Scramblers? Well, kind of, if only because I really hated Blindside, and aesthetically I thought the Angels were a tad more interested, because they also had several different designs, so yeah, point to the Angels on this one. Then we have the aliens from the movie Independence Day, and its sequel, whatever it's called. I've seen both. And so here's an example of an alien design I find kind of meh, because it is, broadly speaking, kind of humanoid. I guess, you know, they do have some tentacles. The head's a bit squid-like. I know there's a hive structure thing going on, and there's a queen alien, which now that I think of it might be riffing off of Ridley Scott's Alienverse. I'm not sure about that, but I don't know, they're still less cool than the Xenomorph, which I'll get to, don't worry about that. Like, I feel nothing about these, so they're going to go in D tier, which is very meh aliens. And then we have the heptapods from the movie Arrival and the short story it is based on, Story of Your Life, written by Ted Chiang. A reminder that I did not like the short story collection I read written by Ted Chiang. Big unpopular opinion there, I know. However, I loved the movie Arrival, and I loved the heptapods and the way they were brought to life in that movie. A, they don't look like humans. They look kind of like a space squid, and I love cephalopods. B, there's this really neat thing with their communication. They have two kinds of communication. One that is sound-based, and then a type of writing that consists of circles of ink with lots of little spokes going in lots of different directions. And then there is the very crucial element that heptapods are discovered to understand and experience time in its totality, which is tied to the circularity of the ink-based writing. And all of that was just very neat conceptually. And they're just nice. They're nice aliens. And they have these lovely interactions with the main female character of the story. So I freaking love them. They will be going in A tier. I think I got more in terms of intellectual engagement out of the Pearson's Puppeteers. So because of that, I will put the heptapods just behind them. And as promised, we come to the Xenomorph of the Alienverse. Obviously, the good old Xeno. She's beauty, she's grace, but she will bleed acid on your face. Right after I saw Prometheus, I went into this like mini deep dive into the world building of the Alienverse and the fictional biology of the Xenomorph, and it's horrifically parasitic. I mean, can you be parasitic without it being horrifying? I don't think so. Life cycle. So yes, I have a special fondness for the horror, the beautiful, magnificent horror of the Xenomorph. I'm not the biggest fan of the fact the Xenomorph is very mildly anthropomorphic in like its design. Like physiologically, it is a biped. It has arms and like hands. That being said, at times it kind of reminds me of the Jurassic Park Velociraptors as well. Thinking of the movie here. Its head is creepy and it's got a mini mouth inside its bigger mouth. It's got that long tail. So that humanoid-ish element isn't too prominent either. So putting that aside, yes, this is going into S tier. Like, what did you think? Obviously the Xenomorph is going in S tier. Next up on the list is the, I think it's Nodian organism. It's not really a major spoiler, don't worry. So there is a genuinely alien life form, several alien life forms actually, but more of a sentient one in Children of Ruin. It's discovered that genetic information in these life forms is encoded at the atom level. So that was kind of neat. And then you have this kind of like slime mold thing that is sentient and becomes a kind of character. And something was done with it in the story that I found engaging enough. Though ultimately, I guess I wanted more in terms of alien biology world building, but still, a sentient slime mold, kind of. That's cool. So, a respectable B tier entry. Yeah, I'll put it behind the Scramblers. Even though they were ultimately underwhelming, I think more was done with them as well. And there we have H.P. Lovecraft's Elder Things! Yay! from specifically, I mean, I think they pop up in another one of his short stories, but they definitely play a role in At the Mountains of Madness. And they're described as being neither animal or plant or fungal, really. It's kind of a mix of things, and the way they're described is pretty trippy, and they're supposed to look very weird. I love looking up fan art of the Elder Things. I invite you to do the same because it's great, visually speaking. I really vibe with them in At the Mountains of Madness and Civilization, because yes, they have or had one. Obviously, my enjoyment of the story as a whole is a factor here, but even still, the design of the Elder Things itself was really cool. So this is definitely going to go in A tier. I think maybe, yeah, here, because they're a bit trippier than the heptapods. Again, there was a lot of like meaningful world building and theming done through the Pearson's Puppeteers, so they still stand at the head of A tier. Next up on the list are the Skitters from Falling Skies. It's like a post-apocalyptic alien invasion story, and there are several alien species actually in that show, but the main one you encounter in the show, and certainly the first one, are the Skitters. I guess the top half does look a bit humanoid-like, but they're also a bit insectoid or just arthropod looking. There's a hive mind involved, sort of, and there is a very interesting twist involved with their species building that I won't spoil, but which I really enjoyed, and I thought it added something to the show's world building and storytelling. Still, it wasn't the most mind-blowing or meaningful thing I ever encountered in fiction either with regards to aliens. So this is going to be another B tier alien species where I don't really know, to be honest. I'll put them there. I guess they kind of sit on the same level as Scramblers. I might revisit this. Then we come to the Na'vi of James Cameron's Avatar. I really enjoy the sociological, I guess, or cultural world or species building of the Na'vi. They're very in tune with their environment. They are very pantheistic pagan in their relationship to the divine they see inside of the natural world around them. I loved all of that. That being said, from a purely physiological design point of view, I don't understand why they look the way they do. Okay, they're blue. Big whoop. Their face is a bit more feline-like, with their nose and the ears. They have a tail, but their body, I mean, they're quadrupeds, when the vast majority of the animals around them are hexapods. So I'm like, but why are they quadrupeds then? I guess they could have lost a pair of limbs sometime during their evolutionary history, but that kind of bugged me, because I'm just like that when it comes to world building. So because of that, they're going in C tier. I loved Avatar, and again, I loved the culture of the Na'vi, but the Na'vi themselves as humanoid-looking monkey-type animals, no. So C tier. I will put them in front of the Martians or behind them? Just behind them, but they kind of sit on the same level. Still in James Cameron filmography land, we have the Angels of the Abyss. The short of it is, at some point in the past, an alien civilization kind of crash landed on Earth, and they sunk in the ocean. So there's like an alien city at the bottom of an oceanic trench, and there are human beings who are exploring the abyss, and so there's a first encounter type story. And the aliens in this movie kind of look like angelic manta rays. I thought they were just so pretty and nice because they're very friendly, benevolent aliens. I do think they had a humanoid looking head and like arms, but otherwise, yeah, they're kind of like transparent manta rays. I don't know, it left a very nice impression on my memory. That being said, beyond that, there wasn't much more to them than that. I will put them in lower B tier, mostly because, again, they weren't entirely humanoid looking, and it's also the whole thing of like having them in the very deep ocean. And I kind of like that too, because a lot of very deep sea oceanic creatures look very alien to us, right? So there's that going on as well, so I kind of like that. So yeah, lower B tier. Now we have the Oankali from Octavia E. Butler's Xenogenesis trilogy, which I read and reviewed last year. Butler's aliens, the Oankali, are very interesting conceptually as well. For one thing, they have not two, but three reproductive categories. Some of them do look somewhat humanoid, but there are castes within their society that look very different because their species is pretty polymorphous, so they can take different shapes, and the Oankali, the human beings in Xenogenesis Encounter, look humanoid-ish by design. Still, they do look weird. I mean, sure, they're bipedal quadrupeds, but their skin is very smooth and grey. They also have tendrils on various parts of their bodies, and then they have giant freaking tentacles. So, yes, tentacled fuckers. Literally, because they use those tentacles for reproduction. I hated the Oankali, not because of their design, but because of the role they play in Xenogenesis. So this is definitely another B tier entry. Maybe at the top for now, just because of the theming that is done through them. Then we have the Mimics from the movie Edge of Tomorrow, which I enjoyed overall. They look like a bunch of, again, tentacles. Tentacles and tendrils that are writhing together to make these predatory animal shapes. They also function in a highly structured hive mind, or like they have alpha, beta, gamma castes, not in a dominance hierarchy sense, but there's like a centralized brain alien entity, and then big alien predators, and then drones, kind of like with a eusocial insect species. And so they were reasonably creepy and cool. And there's also the fact that they can reset time, because time loops play a role in that movie. So I guess I will put them in B tier as well. Probably lower B, I guess, here for now. Then we have the aliens from the movie Signs, one of M. Night Shyamalan's movies. It was very creepy, I will give the movie that. I didn't dislike the movie, but the aliens in Signs are boring as fuck. It's just a very naked, hairless humanoid, and that is boring. I mean, that's scary because of the atmosphere Shyamalan creates in his movie, but that's about it. They're boring, there's nothing to them. D tier. And behind the aliens from Independence Day, because at least they have tentacles. But then, on the complete opposite side of the spectrum, we have Embassy Town's Ariake. I loved China Miéville's alien species. They are so weird looking and cool and interesting, and so much theming is done through them as well in the story of Embassy Town. That is just top tier freaking ideas driven science fiction. Yes, and the Ariake are a very big part of that. So this is obviously going in S tier, and sorry, I have to do it in front of the Xenomorphs. The Xenomorphs are super cool, but the Ariake just are a bit cooler design wise, and definitely from a theming point of view. So much is done with the Ariake, kind of like the Pearson's Puppeteers in Ringworld, but they just look so freaking weird, and their society is interesting, and their relationship to language and communication. Yes. Then, it's a bit of a borderline pick, I'll admit. We have the alien life form from the movie Virus. I watched this movie when I was like 9 years old. No, 10 years old? The story is set on this abandoned destroyer type naval craft. And so what happened is that this ship got hit by lightning, but this lightning came from space because the lightning is actually an alien life form, but it's electricity based. And once on this ship, this alien life form uses machinery and body parts to create robots, kind of, or organic androids to move around. I don't really remember why it's doing this. Maybe just because it's a life form and it wants to replicate itself. It was just creepy, very creepy. So yeah, I was freaked out at the time. But thinking back on it, I think the fact it features an electricity-based life form, and the fact this electricity-based life form then tries to replicate itself through half-organic robots, conceptually it's all pretty neat. So I just wanted to include it on this list because of that. I can't really remember much about the movie otherwise. I don't think the species building was that deep either, so I'm not gonna place it very high. Maybe behind the Martians, because theming is done through the Martians, and at least there is an organic design for them. So yeah, I'll put the electricity alien virus between these two. Kind of feels wrong to put them in front of the Na'vi, but again, if I'm judging the aliens largely on their biology and physiology, etc., then yeah, the Na'vi have to stay there, even though I love their culture and spirituality and stuff. And finally, we have the Predators from the movie, originally Predator. I have not seen Predator, but it still counts because I've seen Alien vs. Predator, which has a predator in it. The Predator is pretty boring. Because again, they kind of look very humanoid apart from their head. Like, I know they wear a mask, and if you take the mask off, they got this creepy mandible-like jaw. And yeah, okay, they are super predators, haha, but they still look quite humanoid. Roided humanoids, sure, but still. Bipedal quadrupeds with a creepy mouth. Yikes, that's about it, so I'm just not really impressed with their design. The Xenomorph beats the Predator 10 billion times, that's for sure. So this is going into C tier, above these fuckers, because, I don't know, at least there's a horror and creepy factor with the Predators, which I didn't really get with the aliens from Independence Day. Plus, it's technically kind of linked to the Alienverse franchise as well, so that's playing in its favor. You know what, I'll put them behind the Na'vi though. Okay, so let's go over the list. This is perfect. Ariake for the win. Of course, gotta pay my respects to the good old Xenos. Then in A, we got the Pearson's Puppeteers, Elder Things, yes. And the heptapods. Okay, that's good. Okay, B. The Oankali, no, definitely deserve to be at the front of B tier. The Angels from NGE. Again, it's a bit difficult because they had different designs and they were all rather cool, but then had issues with the deeper world building and the show as a whole. So okay, no, they can stay there. I guess technically the Scramblers kind of sit on the same level as the Angels. The Skitters there, no, that's fine. The Nodian life form, okay. The Mimics do have that time travel thing going. There really isn't much I actually remember about the Angels of the Abyss, even though I did really like them, but okay, no. I think that's about right. Keep in mind that all of these kind of sit on the same level, more or less. Then in C tier, the Martians. Yeah, blobby brains on tentacles. Oh, this still kind of feels wrong, though, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, fine, but again, they kind of sit on the same level. Predator at the end there, that's fine. The aliens from Independence Day, and then the Garbo aliens from Signs. They're just, nah, boring. So yeah, that's my tier list ranking. A large part of the alien species I've encountered in literary and cinematic fiction. I kind of wanted to do this list as well as a science fiction companion to my tier lists ranking some of my favorite fictional dragons. That's more the realm of fantasy, I guess, though technically I know that the dragons of Pan are a thing and those are science fictional dragons, but whatever. So there you have it. If you want to share your own ranking of these alien species and point me towards cool aliens I haven't yet encountered in fiction but that you really loved, please feel free to do so in the comments down below. And on that final note, I hope you will have a lovely day, evening, or whichever time of day you prefer. Do take good care of yourselves. Thank you for the continued support, and I shall see you all reasonably soon in the next video, but until then, bye.